you know that each American consumes petroleum products at a rate of 3.5 gallons of oil per day? You're probably thinking, well, I take public transportation to work or school. Or I have a hybrid. Or maybe you don't even drive a car at all, maybe you ride a bike. But you're still using petroleum every single day. Let's take a look at just what you're using. Okay, here we go. Diesel fuel, motor oil, bearing grease, sports car bodies, floor wax, fishing lures, ballpoint pens, football cleats, perfume, upholstery, sweaters, boats, insecticides, bicycle tires, preservatives, ammonia, refrigerators, shoes, dashboards, toothpaste, and gasoline. Of course, gasoline. So if we're really using petroleum for all of these items and about 5,000 other ones, then why haven't we run out of oil? There were and still are doomsters that think we're gonna run out. If you do a web search of the words peak oil, you will find about 4.8 million entries, many dedicated to threatening everyone with oil shortages. Oh, and you're probably wondering what peak oil is. No name is more closely associated with the concept of peak oil than this guy, Marion King Hubbert.
King Hubbert was a geologist with the Shell Oil Company who back in the 1950s came up with something that came to be known as Hubbert's curve. And it was a remarkably lucky prediction about when North American oil resources would peak.
The theory of peak oil is that we are either at or very near in time the point at which oil production worldwide peaks, reaches its maximum, and after that goes into a terminal decline.
There have been predictions from the early 1970s of when we'd reach a peak of global oil resources and when oil production would begin to decline on a global scale. The Club of Rome thought it would happen as soon as 1980. The CIA thought it might happen as soon as 1987. The Carter administration, back around 1980, issued a famous report called Global 2000, where they thought that oil production would be seriously declining by the year 2000. All of these projections of so-called peak oil have turned out to be wrong.
Since the introduction of the peak oil theory in 1956, predictions of when we'll hit the peak have been all over the place, from 1977 to 2055.
We're not running out of oil because we're finding more, we're developing new technology, and we're using oil more efficiently. Just look at your car. It's not getting 10 miles to the gallon anymore. The geopolitics of oil are also changing.
All the recent oil discoveries in the Western Hemisphere are completely remaking the global oil map.
The new discoveries are not in the old OPEC countries, but are in places like the United States and Canada, Brazil, and France.
We would have hit peak oil a long time ago if it weren't for technological innovation. Since 2000, there have been many major discoveries outside of the Middle East, particularly in North and South America. King Hubbert, when he was talking about peak oil, never envisioned that we would be producing oil from the tar sands in Alberta, which is now a major oil field.
Maybe the biggest surprise is here in the United States, in North Dakota. A state thought to have not a whole lot of oil now turns out to be perhaps the largest oil field in the country, probably on its way to passing Texas in another couple of years.
So we've not run out of oil because there is more oil. Oh. But what about the oil shortages we have seen?
You know, occasional shortages of oil and wild price fluctuations are really not unusual. There's a long history of energy shortages going back hundreds of years. I mean, the reason that England developed coal was because they had cut down almost all of their trees and had run out of things to burn to keep themselves warm. Scarcity is actually the spur to innovation and change. And so one of the things that people don't really realize is that we got oil and gasoline and petroleum products because of a scarcity of their precursors in the 19th century.
In the 19th century, the worry was that the world was going to run out of whale oil as whale numbers declined.
Most people don't realize the extent to which we hunted whales almost to extinction because we used whale oil in our lamps.
That worry and the increasing price led to its replacement by kerosene as a fuel for home lighting.
And gasoline, that we now put in our cars, was actually a byproduct of kerosene manufacturing. It was discovered almost by accident. Most things the marketplace discovers on its own using the creative powers of individuals to bring us new technologies that solve our practical problems.
It's comforting to know that human creativity and innovation continues to meet our needs. It almost seems silly to predict when things will peak, because most alternatives are found spontaneously, oftentimes by accident. Until alternative sources are cheaper and easier to find, it's nice to know we're nowhere near reaching peak oil.